All right, so picture this. Average baseball fan. Doesn't watch the game too much. Kind of picks it up in October. You're wondering if this could be your year. You remember watching the games with your dad. The last time you saw a World Series win, you haven't been paying attention since then. You got a 9 to 5. You got kids. You got mouths to feed. And you're this close to experiencing that little tiny bit of happiness again. And then all of a sudden,
here's the 0-2 pitch. Kirk bounces one up the middle, bends to the bag, over to first to beat the champ. You gotta knock him out. The Dodgers stand tall.
All right, so this needs to be talked about because everyone seems to think they're a genius about it, and everyone is always telling me, I'm a Dodgers fan. Everyone's always telling me, I'm just a homer, but I'm not. I'm here for the facts, and I'm here to present them. So let's just be honest. Dodgers are very controversial, and specifically for financial reasons. And they've always been a successful franchise, but not like the Yankees, like they've never really been on that Yankees level where everyone in the nation hates them until now. If you ask anyone, they're hating on the Dodgers these days. And that's because they're just better. They're honestly just better. And it really boils down to a few things. But the most obvious, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, they got star power. They have people out here who are superhuman, superheroes. They're bigger than baseball, bigger than life. And when you get all these same people on the same team and all these other teams have a bunch of role players, there starts to be questions about why are they so financially stable? Why are they so financially well off? Like, there's no way, because everyone wants to win, right? But when there's only one team that really, gets the media attention, has the market, the question really comes to fruition. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball? So that you understand my point, I'm going to split ruining into 2 different categories, and that's going to be financial and cultural, because baseball has a lot going on, but that's kind of just a generalization. And I'm going to start with financial. And to understand the financial aspect of the Los Angeles Dodgers, we absolutely have to start way back in 2013 with the infamous 25-year, $8.3 billion TV deal with Time Warner. And if that sounds like a lot of money, it's because it is. And I'm going to get into exactly why. Funny enough, this was a cable television deal, and it was made at the perfect time. And this timing is what makes it so lucrative, because let's just be honest, no one really has cable television anymore. Everyone just streams stuff. Like, if you're trying to watch a game, you're probably going to be streaming it. It's on a stream service. I know UFC is just moving their pay-per-view stuff to Paramount Plus, another streaming service. That aside, though, 2013, it was still a thing to have cable. And right after that, these massive cable deals kind of started disappearing off the market because, who wants to watch cable when you can just stream? It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier. It's all in one place. So what happens with that is a massive money pot for MLB clubs that just all of a sudden disappeared. And not to mention that, the Dodgers already had access to such a big deal because of their, place in the U.S. You can compare it to the Phillies, who made a 25-year deal in 2014. So just the year after, so a little bit worse, but they only raked $2.5 billion compared to the $8.3 billion. And that is likely due to market size. And these are huge numbers, but even so, the biggest difference here is the timing. Because the Padres, for example, great team, they have a pretty good fan base. They only raked in $17 million to the Dodgers near $200 million in 2024 from TV deals, because they don't have the cable deal. They didn't make a cable deal at that perfect timing. And as a result, they just don't have that money pot to pull from. And that's just a timing thing. A little bit of good business, a little bit of luck, and a decent amount of market size from LA. But I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this because this is what is talked about so much. It's honestly the catalyst for LA's large spending, which is what everyone gets mad about anyway, because they have so much money to fall back on. They can do all the deferrals and all that stuff. But Rob Manfred, he's the commissioner right now. He's actually considering pooling all TV deals into one big pot for the MLB to sell by themselves. And that sounds all great, right? However, though it would balance out these market disparities, you're essentially going to be taking money away from teams that fairly made these deals. Even though they're much larger than other teams, which makes it look unfair, they still did fair business to make these deals. And honestly, it's really debatable if it's even the MLB's responsibility to step in like that. So it would have to get ironed out a bit. But that's just kind of the theme with all these fixes. They're so multi-pronged and there's no simple fix. So I'm going to shoot a couple more ideas at the wall. And I think a combination of them is honestly what the MLB might be needing these days. What's been going on for sharing revenue is literally called revenue sharing. And it is not the best way to do it, in my opinion. And it statistically has not been. And it's the MLB's way of balancing the field since the mid-90s, and it involves larger market teams handing over 48% of local revenue to smaller market teams. And that includes ticket sales, concessions, even those local TV deals that I was talking about before. And that all sounds perfect, right? Because in theory it should be, but generally it actually takes away the ambition from some of these smaller market teams. Because if you realize that you get to collect a paycheck from these big market teams, then you're not going to spend as much money. You're going to play it safe. You're going to wait till the end of the year to collect essentially your welfare check, and then your team's going to stay smaller market. And for some teams, that's just the reality. For some teams, that's actually holding them back. As well as that from a business perspective, because we must remember, this is a business. This isn't just a baseball league, you know? Some owners honestly see revenue sharing as the reason teams have had trouble finding new interest from buyers in recent years, due to the large ambiguity of money actually being attained per year. Because new teams are giving and receiving different amounts every year. I mean, if you're trying to buy a team and you're looking to invest in something, even if it's a whole baseball team, I mean, why would you want to buy out an organization whose profits are fluctuating on the year based on how good the players on your team are actually doing? It's too much ambiguity. And in a sport that is statistically dying as far as viewership goes, at least in the US, the finance and business of the sport as a whole should definitely be considered when trying to decide what is actually good for it. So then what do we even do? And I know what everyone's about to say. They're probably saying, why did I not talk about a salary cap? Yeah, it works for the NBA. Why can't it work for the MLB? And the answer to that is complicated, which no one likes to hear because whatever. I'm going to stop ranting, but I will explain this. So, first of all, the players don't even want it. The MLB Players Association has fought against this idea for decades. It has been an argument. The president of the MLB Players Association is named Tony Clark. He was a baseball player, and here's his opinion on it. He was interviewed by the Baseball Writers Association of America in a USA Today article, and what he said was, institutionalized collusion. That's what a salary cap is. A cap is not about partnership. A cap isn't about growing the game. A cap is about franchise values and profits. And if you didn't catch that, basically he's just advocating for players' rights, and he's saying that a salary cap is just an excuse for these bigwigs to cut costs and fill their pockets essentially without considering how much they really need to pay for these players who are the ones working. But anyways, enough of all the boring stuff. In my opinion, the Dodgers just signed a great deal at a great time. They set themselves far ahead of the competition. But also, I didn't mention this before, but they did alienate a lot of loyal locals in the process. I mean, with that deal they made, it was so expensive. It cost so much money that the Time Warner company they made it with was offering terrible prices to all these other companies that would have been able to put on their services like DirecTV. And a ton of people in LA weren't even able to watch the games. So that just kind of shows the kind of corporate bubble that happened. But that aside, also, I just had to mention that I personally like the idea of a pool for local TV deals, even maybe combined with a salary cap to control the market, maybe with the addition of a salary floor as well. I'll get to that later. But having a 30-team pool would halt blackouts and make the deal even more lucrative, as the network paying would have to consider the increased value of a whole league instead of a single team. So all of this would come with the reforming of revenue sharing, which in its current state does not do enough what it's supposed to, clearly. But that aside again, let's move on to superstars. I'm going to just list these off super fast. So you got Shohei Ohtani. He signed to a 10-year, $700 million contract. Very few teams want to do that. It was actually the largest professional sports contract ever until the year after, with Juan Soto signed with the Mets for $765 million. Way less profitable. Shohei is a better player. That's a good job by the Dodgers. Yes, they both have big pockets. But that aside, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the next superstar, everyone knows him after his beautiful performance in the World Series in 2025. He signed to a 12-year, $325 million contract, and that was the largest starting contract for a pitcher ever at the time, which was 2023. So their influence as a franchise allows them to do this, as well as their copious amounts of money. Because these players want to come to LA because they know they're going to be treated well. They know they're going to be able to grow their career there. They know they're going to win games. and LA can pay. So it's a combination. And this is another point of contention that I'm going to talk about right here. Deferrals. These are backed by that strong economic base that I covered. The most famous is going to be Shohei. He has a $700 million contract, as I mentioned. $680 million of that is deferred, which means it's kicked down the road. The Dodgers don't have to pay that per year until after his contract is over. And it will also be untaxed because his home country is Japan. He's just ripping off whoever would have received that tax money. But he's being paid $2 million a year currently, and the Dodgers don't have to worry about anything because they know they're going to make that money back because their steady base of income, and as a result, they can have Shohei Ohtani as well as another 5 or so all-star players on the same team. I don't know. I just threw that number out there. But you also have, just to name a couple, Will Smith, $140 million contract, $50 million deferred, and Freddie Freeman, $162 million contract, $57 million deferred. So nowhere near Shohei, but they all have a lot of money kicked down the road. In fact, the Dodgers have $1 billion kicked down the road currently, which is an unimaginable number for most teams, and a number that has allowed them to still spend highly in present day because they have so much money coming in consistently. That cable TV deal, for example, consistent 200 or so million a year. I mean, you're going to make that back. It's secure. Other teams don't have access. And I feel like I should just note, it's important to remember at the root, the MLB is a business. It is a franchisor, and all of its clubs are franchisees, all under control, but still separate entities. At the end of the day, the clubs prioritize their own success, and the MLB prioritizes its own success, whether that is fairness or something else. A good example is during the 2011 Dodgers, they had a bankruptcy because Frank McCourt, the owner at the time, mismanaged them and had to apply for bankruptcy, but he actually went to a U.S. court judge instead of the MLB owner at the time, which was Bud Selig, because they had some bad blood, they had some beef, and as a result, they received a better turnout, and this was kind of the catalyst for Guggenheim Baseball Management, which is the current owner, who's just done amazing things with the team, to start owning the team and start doing what they're doing. So these teams are separate entities in a way, and the MLB is on their own agenda. So I just have to note that there's a lot of factors going into this. And even if the average fan wants their team to win, maybe the Pirates winning the World Series isn't the best thing for the MLB, so maybe they're going to be focusing on doing other things for their finance. And that can also be another reason that these big juggernauts are able to do so much, and maybe that's a problem with MLB. I don't think anyone ever expected, because it's so unprecedented for a team to be this successful. So it's honestly, in some ways, exposing the system. But once again, going to speed up a little bit because this video is taking forever. But let's talk cultural. And by cultural, I mean losing the plot of baseball. So back to that TV deal. Earlier, I briefly mentioned that because of the high price of the new TV deal, fans weren't able to access the game. Local fans who grew up watching the Dodgers. And I think that's what makes this deal so infamous, is because it kind of just showed how out of touch that corporate people can get, which, to be honest, just serves as a total microcosm for the frustrations with baseball right now. I mean, baseball has always been something that builds community, but when executives are choosing money over the fan base, the point of it all gets lost a bit, which brings me to the next cultural thing. It's like the Dodgers are a great team. It's fun to watch them, but is it really the same? Are they changing baseball in a good or a bad way? And one way to look at that, with baseball's ratings going down over time, so it's already doing worse over time, is the numbers, the statistics. So the 2025 World Series Game 7 was actually the most watched globally MLB game in 34 years. This was partly due to the Blue Jays pulling Canadian fans into the mix more than usual, but a sizable amount of people from Japan, which has sort of become the Dodgers' stomping ground these days. In the US, there was a 16.1 million viewer average for the series, while in Japan, viewership hung around 12.5 million viewers for the final two games, and over the series had a 9.7 million viewer average, which is kind of insane considering, I mean, the slogan for baseball is that it's America's sport or whatever, and Japan has this many people watching it. It makes you question if there could be a revival of baseball through a global rising, essentially.
Everyone in Japan is by default a Shohei fan, just because he's such a representation.
Everywhere you turn, Ohtani's face is plastered onto TVs, billboards, ads, and in convenience stores.
Whether you're a baseball fan or not, you've definitely heard of Shohei.
Sports stores.
We can take a look at this graph right here that shows the World Series viewership by year in the US. And I have the 2025 highlighted here. Ignore the ratings, that's just TV ratings. But I'm just looking at the viewership here. 15.4 million. And in 2024, when the Dodgers played the Yankees, just less than that. And before that, when the Dodgers weren't in, I mean, you see how low it is. They're really making a difference in these years. Even though it's a small spike and it's been going down, you can see the difference. Which brings me to another point about, if the Dodgers are so polarizing and so hated by so many people and loved by others, are they really bad for the game, or are they just stimulating viewership? In fact, an article on Sports Business Journal has an interview with the Dodgers president and CEO, Stan Kasten, and in response to the ruining the game claims, he kind of refutes it by saying, it's really good when there's one team beloved by their fans who come out in record numbers, leading all of baseball in attendance, while that same team can be hated and lead in baseball road attendance. That's a win-win for baseball. And he thinks the Dodgers are really contributing to the enhanced globalization of Central baseball around the world, which is something that the sport may need right now to survive. In its state that it is, at least. And there are some numbers to back this up, too. There's some kind of known as the Ohtani effect, and it's just the idea that he's kind of a unicorn, kind of a Michael Jordan of sports that is able to bring in people that normally wouldn't watch the game. So here, I'm going to put on screen a graph. This is back when he was with the Angels, 2021, coming back from COVID-19. And it's measuring a statistic or a variable that is labeled superstar externality. So basically, when he goes to an away game, how many more people are coming to that away game to watch him start pitching than usual at a normal game? And as you can see, it's 5,346 more on average over these 10 games. And this is way earlier in his MLB career, but honestly, just at a minimal scale at least, goes to show how much of an effect he can have and players like him can have in bringing people in. These numbers are so low because it was right after COVID, but you can only imagine what that looks like now. I personally went to a Dodgers game and bought an Ohtani shirt, which I'm wearing right now. I didn't even realize that. But he does have a certain effect on the game, similar to the Michael Jordans of the world. With the feats that some of these overseas and just overly remarkable players have made, like Shohei's hitting 50 home runs, stealing 50 bases in one season, Yamamoto's amazing World Series performance, Shohei's, this was this postseason, but going 3 for 3 with 3 home runs and throwing 10 strikeouts, and then the game after going 4 for 4 with 5 walks, with 2 home runs and those 4 hits. I mean, it's just stuff you've never heard of before. And honestly, if there's anything that's going to revive baseball, it's going to be people like this, in my opinion. But moving on from that, I have another question to address. Yes, another one. And this one is, how global is too global? Because at the core, baseball has always been a community sport, as I said earlier. You know, it's a fun hometown sport. Play with your boys and girls, whatever. But even though it's facing popularity troubles in present day, when the focus becomes more profit-centered, it can actually alienate even more fans and overall loses the point. So it's a balance that you have to walk here. It's a fine line that you have to walk. And it's great the Dodgers are able to make this multinational super team, but at what cost to others? And it's not their fault anyway, because they are just competing at the end of the day. They are trying to make as much money as they can. They're trying to win as many games as they can, expand influence. It's a business, yeah. So even though they are very fortunate, right, with their circumstances, we can't just sit here and pretend that other teams do not have money as well. I cannot stand this. But we can all agree that they're not the only ones with money. And obviously, I'm not saying all teams, but I am going to name a few here. Specifically, going to start with the New York Yankees and the Philadelphia Phillies. These are both good teams, but we have all witnessed the Dodgers whooping them in recent years, especially the Yankees. I'm talking to you, 4-1. And though there's a lot of variables here, I think this is boiling down to a team culture thing. The Dodgers, what they do with their money is genius. They invest in team leaders like Freeman, Betts. They don't just buy random free agents for overpriced prices who are there for a second, not committed to the team, kind of wild cards. They sign long contracts. They commit to developing players. They don't get the short, cheap deals. They invest in their farm system and cultivate players instead of overspending on random free agents, as I just said. And yes, most teams obviously cannot afford what they do, but there is a certain culture of commitment to the club, investing in the team in a way that translates money to wins, and other big spenders have not been able to replicate this. I mean, you look at the Yankees, where their spending's going, there's dead money in there. They're spending on injured players, waste of space. You look at the Mets, they have a decent amount of money. They spent more money on Juan Soto than Shohei Ohtani. You don't see Juan Soto's name in the headline when someone hits 3 bombs in one game. It's Shohei Ohtani. But no one complains about Juan Soto making too much money because his team isn't winning, because they don't have the assets. And as I've said, this is for a million different reasons, but this is one of them. So, in summation, I would be lying if I said I knew the answer to how to balance out the MLB, and everyone else is too. Honestly, the Dodgers find themselves in a great place due to the remainder of their TV contract, and they can defer these massive contracts and sign these superstars. So we can be honest, they're not fully to blame for changing the game. Yes, they have this massive market and they've gotten lucky and blah, 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 but I mean, they're also just a product of good management, good fortune, and the usage of advantages fully within the rules of business and the MLB, which is what baseball is. I mean, revenue sharing doesn't do enough, and market disparities are a fact of life in a free market. And I think this is where the MLB should look to make changes with a TV pool, maybe a salary cap, as I said before, but these are contested by an array of investors and players for their own reasons, because this is a business world. This isn't just baseball. And yeah, honestly, all this finally brings me to one of my last points. It's a surprise. This has been a contested topic even since the 1800s, how to manage the money in this league. I mean, here are some quotes. Cleveland's team's president back in the 1800s said, "We cannot stay in the league and compete against the richer teams." A high-ranking official from another team said, "While New York, Boston, and Chicago can afford to pay fancy salaries, the other cities cannot." I mean, this has been a long-time issue in baseball since its conception, and it's only viewed as a problem at specific points in time. In the late 1800s, when professional baseball was still new, owners were already attempting to impose such a salary cap. So essentially, owners were allowed to move players around without benefit to the player, taking all the extra money for themselves. This was actually the National League, and this resulted in the founding of an entirely different baseball league known as the Players League, backed with investment from others who wanted more freedom for the players. One of these financial backers, Albert L. Johnson's brother, had this to say about the matter. "Besides furnishing the best ball in the country, the players will have the sympathy of the people with them. No man living that I know feels friendly to the way the league bosses have been running things. This selling and trading of players as though they were so much as cattle is all wrong, and the time has come when the players must take the bull by the horns and do something for themselves." So in Boston, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, this new league actually won the crowds for the new baseball fans. And it did come to an end because the financially genius National League went behind the backs of players in the Players League and made deals with investors, resulting in the evisceration of the league and the retaining of the National League's reach over baseball. A new league would form a bit later on, and that was the American League, which would be negotiated with by the National League. So they have a history of this financial prowess and not necessarily fairness to the players. So historically in baseball, the salary cap's just been used to some to control players and help the owners pocket extra money. And it makes it so, you don't have to try nearly as hard to manage money because you're going to spend the same amount on a ton of players who are very different skill levels. And who knows, you pocket that money wherever it goes. One important thing to look at as well is the NBA salary cap. Everyone always wants to say, the NBA can do it, why can't the MLB? The salary cap works because there is a salary floor, right, which would be an option for the MLB, but also the players don't historically despise the idea, and the revenue intakes are much more, even compared to the MLB. So the Players Union Association in the MLB, they despise it because of these historical things that have happened. It's just a cultural thing. They don't want their money to be taken by these owners. But back to overlooking the Dodgers. They've brought new dimensions to baseball. Everyone can see it with these Japanese superstars, all these other factors. And while they can create some serious spectacles, they're also guilty of overlooking their local fans at times and drifting away from the local feel that sports traditionally have. And all this is basically a struggle about what is ultimately better for the sport at this point. Growing into new markets or attempting to recover what has been lost already. And what I have to say to that, my opinion, overall, is after learning all this, I don't blame the Dodgers any more than I did before. It's a complicated matter dealing with the fact that baseball is at its core a business, but also that it can't offer teams full freedom and be fair at the same time, much like life itself. I definitely believe in exploring options that level the playing field, for sure. I'd love to see that. Even as a Dodgers fan, I mean, I don't want to see teams get beat up on year after year. It kind of defeats the point. Even at the Dodgers and similar teams' expense within a reasonable amount. And as long as the ideas and ideals reached compensate everyone in a fair enough way, I believe it's necessary to try and level off the playing field. I mean, that's not a crazy thing to say. And if a salary cap was to be added, it would be necessary to institute something like a salary floor so smaller market teams wouldn't abuse the new system. Also have procedures to stop owners from stealing money. Maybe moving the money back into the system somehow. I don't know. I'm not a business major. I don't know that much. I did all this research by myself. But that being said, it's time to stop pretending like the Dodgers are villains out to ruin every city's franchise. They are the product of good circumstances, performance, and management, and would likely be successful with a much smaller amount of money. They are but a franchise that just wants to win that much and does it over and over again until people start questioning how they do it. If we ignore the money, that part is simple. But as we know, it is not that simple. So if I leave you with one thing, they are a team that exercises ambition, risk-taking, and execution. Everything else you hear may be true, may be false, but everyone who pretends like they know what they're talking about when they talk about this is completely lying. They have no idea, and there is a reason this hasn't been figured out over the last 150 years. And still, at the end of the day, I believe that winning culture is completely infectious in an organization and is the catalyst for their success.
What I say is the game honors you. Today, the game honored Miggy.
Great teammate!
And what Yamamoto did will never be done again. Okay, hey, this is this guy's last guy. I love you, Kobe. This is this guy's last time in a clubhouse as an active player. And so, the floor is yours, Clayton.
Thanks, Doc. It's an absolute honor to be in this clubhouse with you guys. I love every single one of you. I can't imagine a better way to go out than to pop bottles with this group of guys. Yeah!